What's up, guys? Hey, in this video, what I want to talk about are lease agreements. Hey, if you're an existing landlord or you're thinking about getting started in real estate, or maybe you just have that first property that you just acquired and you're wondering, all right, now here's the next hurdle. I've got the property, but I got to get a tenant into it. So what are some of the concerns that you need to be aware of as a landlord when it comes to working with tenants? Well, one of the individuals that I'm going to have on here with me today is someone that I've known now for over a year, and he has become really synonymous with working with tenants and with lease agreements. And when I came across him for the first time, I was just blown away at the depth of product that he has to assist landlords in working with tenants. His name is Kevin Klein of EasyLandlordForums.com. You may have seen him out there before. He's been on a ton of different podcasts. That's how I originally came across him. But I was so happy to be able to get him to come on and spend 20 minutes with us to talk about this really important topic when it comes to real estate investing. Kevin, how you doing?
Great, Clint. Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad you're able to work out the time. I know your schedule is quite busy. So before we get into the lease stuff and all the legal, why don't you give the people that are watching this right now some background on how you got started?
Great, Clint. Yeah, so I started being a landlord when I was just 18 years old and really was motivated to really kind of get ahead in life and build my future, I guess, for lack of a better term. So yeah, started being a landlord very young, built up properties over time, and finally came up with this idea. I really struggled with having a great lease, and that drew me to take my lease and keep modifying it and adding in new clauses as I saw fit. Different troubles I'd have with tenants that I would say, oh, if I put this into my lease, this won't happen again. And that, you know, carried through many tenants, many changes in the lease, and finally realized I could make this a business and started, launched the site in 2006, Easy Landlord Forms, and we have millions of happy customers now. So it's been, really great to help them and see them succeed and, continue their journey. A lot of landlords start small, one or two rentals, and build things up, and many have hundreds of properties. So it's building millions of dollars of net worth. It's great to see and be a part of.
Yeah. So how old are you?
I'm 54.
All right. So,
Yeah.
so if you're doing the math, what I just did, that's 36 years of experience that have gone into your lease agreements. That's quite a bit of time. Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
I got a lot of questions I'm going to dive into about the actual lease agreement, and some of those are more important provisions. But there's more to that. So if you're a landlord, I mean, before you even offer someone a lease, you're going to want to start with an application process. So maybe you could share with us, walk us through, your application and what that process is like in dealing with tenants, things that you need to look out for in that process.
Yeah, I totally agree, Clint. A huge part of being a successful landlord is doing great screening, and making sure someone's qualified, making sure you're both on the same page. When are they going to move in? How many people are going to move in? Whether or not people have pets. And then on top of that, checking their credit and criminal and eviction history background. So this is a service that we provide at Easy Landlord Forms. Again, it's worth its weight in gold. You spend, we charge right now $35 to do a full screening. You can charge that directly to the applicant, so it doesn't really cost you anything. And people are willing to pay for it. They have no issue with it. All you really need from an applicant is their name and email address. You send a request out to them. They fill it out. You'll have that report in a matter of minutes. We can create that report very quickly for you, and then you're well on your way. you have that, and like you mentioned, a good solid lease in place, and you're really on your road for success for being a landlord.
So when it comes for tenant applicants, are there some things that you would tell the viewers right now that they should probably be on the lookout for that you would consider to be red flags with tenants that may not be
Yeah.
obvious on an application or even a credit report?
Yeah, I like people, well, for one thing is, you never want to discriminate, so you always have to be straight and honest with people, and it's kind of the first qualified person, first first applicant that meets your requirements is who you're legally obligated to rent to. So it's important to know the laws as far as fair housing goes. And then on top of that, yeah, there can be a lot of red flags. Whether you meet that, it's always best to meet the people in person if you can. I know we live in a digital age and everything's automated and people have lock boxes on doors or they have keypad locks that they can let people in. But there's nothing like knowing someone face to face, especially a tenant. Of course, hopefully you live near your rental that you're able to do that. But I think it's very important. And I look for people that are not in like a huge rush that, oh my God, I got to move in like next week. And they try to rush along the process. Um, of course, you want to check someone that has, of course, a good credit and criminal and eviction history, but hopefully has had they're established at their job for a good length of time, and they meet your requirements. So hopefully you allow pets. I don't know. I allow pets. I think it opens you up to a much broader range of tenants for your rental. You may want some restrictions with that, and you may even design your property to be more pet friendly. So you might use a more solid surface flooring instead of carpet. So it might be a wood floor or a tile floor, for instance. There's really a lot you can do to prepare your property and to help just pick good tenants. You were referring to what what you look for in screening. I look for people that are organized, that if you're going to meet them, they're on time and they're polite. And I think you learn a lot from what questions that they ask you about the rental. And you're kind of a sales guy, so you want to sell that space and highlight the features. And some people are interested in what's nearby as far as shopping and grocery stores and so forth. So you want to have in your back of your mind, what is local to that area, and what's convenient. Some people like public transportation, so it's good to be informed about public transportation. And some people that rent with homeowners associations where they might have certain restrictions. So it's certainly important to know what their rules and laws are for a rental property. And even for a tenant, they may HOA may need to screen the tenants as well as your screening. So you want to know what their requirements are in a rental, an applicant or a renter
Sure.
uh, at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit on something there that I think is important. I learned it early on in my landlord careers. How many questions they ask, right? Are they
Hmm.
truly interested in the property, in the surrounding area? Because I found that people who don't ask questions, they're just looking to get in someplace. It's as if they really
Yeah.
don't care about the property. They just want somewhere to live immediately, and that tells me something's going on. Because if they're not asking questions like they should be asking, then it could be a potential problem. And the other things that when I was growing up, and I still kind of use some of these today. I don't know if you've done this before. I look at their shoes. That's one of the things I'm a stickler about. I look at someone's shoes to see what condition they're in, their general appearance. But I also look at
Hmm.
their car. See, when they come in, I'll go by and I'll look at the car to look on the inside, because how they treat their car, I personally believe, is going to be a representation of how they treat your property. So if you see a car that's just full of crap, right? Donald's wrappers everywhere and garbage all over the place. You can imagine when you turn that property, there's going to be a lot of costs in cleanup. So those are some of the things that I think are important for landlords who are self-managing. Now, you find that you got the applicants there. Now you're going to move to that next phase, which is putting together that lease agreement. And you said, we've done the math on you, and it's 36 years here of clauses. Why don't you say, what are some of the things that you see people that are getting started that are putting together lease agreements? What are some of the mistakes that often come up, or maybe that you've even made in the past as well, so other people don't make them?
I've made tons of mistakes, that's for sure. But that's how you learn, right? So
Mm-hmm.
mistakes are okay. So of course, first and foremost, that lease needs to be state specific. So it needs to meet the laws of your state, and there may be county laws that are required for your lease. And I really like a very comprehensive lease. So some of the things I've learned is to put in your lease, whether or not, of course, pets are allowed, who and who's required for certain things. So who cuts the grass, who shovels the snow, who checks the batteries and smoke detectors, sometimes even the filter on the air conditioning unit. These things many beginner landlords aren't thinking of at all, completely off their radar, but you really have to think long term in the rental. You won't be there, and these are things that you need to check in with that tenant, whether are you going to take care of this or am I? And you really want to address that ahead of time and make sure that everything's crystal clear so the rental goes very smoothly. And that's a win for everybody. You really want that rental right from day one, that there's no surprises, everyone's clear on their responsibilities. We want them to be peaceful with the neighbors, not have late night parties and make a lot of noise. These are all clauses you can build right into your lease and really make it clear that, um, you know, everything that they need to do is clear, and everything that the landlord's responsible for. And the landlord has to do their role, right? So they have to be on top of repairs. And if the tenant has a problem, you respond quickly and make sure you get contractors in as soon as possible. And as you build more properties, you get your team together, right? So you get your plumbers and your electricians and maybe a flooring person, and the more you do it, the more you get these contractors, lined up for you and get to know your properties, the easier and easier things become for you. So, and you may even get help with property management, where the tenant may call someone that works for you and they know who to dispatch with whatever problem that tenant might be having. So there's really kind of a lot of things that you could build into that lease to really make your rental go much smoother.
Yeah, I mean, so I have properties that are on septic, and they're also on sewage. And so one of the things that built into my lease is that, hey, understand that this is a septic system. So there are certain things that you cannot flush down that toilet. And if you do and it blows it, then you're going to be responsible for the damage that has caused. And so you got to put people on notice so they understand, hey, I have to treat this a little differently. Satellite dishes. I mean, that's a one that I learned a few years back. People will put a satellite dish up on the house and then they leave, and now you've got satellite dish on one side, or Dish Network on one side, and then DirecTV on the other. I mean, before you know it, your house is going to be covered in those unless you're there to take them down. So you'd want to make sure that that's, I would say, is probably covered in the lease. And so your point is well taken, is that these are the things that when you're putting together a lease agreement, you may not know about it yet. And if, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought your software that you use doesn't allow you to go through and pick certain clauses that you can put in there, like the we just discussed.
Exactly. We kind of, for lack of a better term, hold your hand or walk you through step by step all the relevant relative questions that you need to answer to conform to your rental. So, you mentioned like septic system. So we actually have certain documentation just for that you add in addition to your lease to give instructions for things like that. Same thing for satellite dish, whether or not you allow it, and if you allow it, they need to ask your permission and explain, where is that going to be located on the property and how the wires are even going to be ran. So all these nuances and details, like you said, that they can make or break you really as a landlord. And the more detail you provide, the better. And you really want to insist that your tenant read the entire lease. We're just about to launch a new add-on video feature where you'll not only send a lease to them to read, but a video that goes along with it that helps explain some of these fundamental things. We also instruct people to check the breakers, to know where the breakers are, the electrical breakers, where the water shutoff valves are, just in case, God forbid, a pipe bursts somewhere at some time, that they're at least aware of what to do and where these shutoffs and so forth are located. So yeah, it's really important to make sure that you and them are on the same page and that they have a basic understanding of how the property works and the things that they need to know when they're living there on site.
Yeah, I know. Those are, like you said, knowing where those things are can mean the difference between a little bit of damage versus an extensive amount of damage because the tenant wasn't aware. I mean, they're not just going to stand there and let your property flood. They're going to do their best typically to ensure that they get that water shut off. But if they don't know where to find it, then that's going to be a problem. I remember our daughter when she was just renting an apartment in Colorado, in Denver, this last year or so, and she ran into a problem with the electrical. And when she went in, they didn't, or maybe they did. She said they didn't. They didn't walk her through and explain to her where the electrical box was. And finally, she found it, but it was in the most obscure spot that you would ever think where an electrical box might be. I was telling you, look in all the closets, that type of stuff. So to your point, those are important. If you don't know about that, then you'll learn it eventually. And so that's what's great about, I think, your lease software is that it walks someone through, it educates the landlord onto the things that they need to be thinking about. Now, on the backside of that, so let's assume that, we've got a tenant in the property. What happens then if you have to enforce the lease? I mean, is there software? Is there anything that that you've run into before where you can instruct landlords on what they should be doing, the process-wise?
For eviction, you're talking about, I
Yeah,
guess?
yeah, unlawful detainers.
Yeah. Well, it's really, of course, up to the landlord whether or not they want to hire an attorney to handle
Nothing
it
wrong
from
with that.
there, or
Yeah.
if they want to submit some of the paperwork themselves. We do offer all the forms that you need for eviction. Sometimes there's a specific one for your county that we may not have, but as long as it's just a normal state form, we almost always have it. And yeah, we have all kinds of documents to help you throughout that whole process, both from a simple, notice of late rent payments to evicting for all different reasons, right? So of course there's non-payment of rent, but there's a whole list of other terms or reasons you may be wanting to evict that tenant. And a lot of times sending the right paperwork and documentation, they'll respond quickly. I always say to landlords, don't wait. If people start falling behind of rent and they're not communicating with you, start the process early because it's very easy. They're either going to pay you right away and clear things up or not. And then you know which path you need to take to get your rental, get that tenant out and get it re-rented as quick as possible. That's the whole name of the game is you need to have as little vacancy or as a little amount of time that you don't get paid as possible. So a lot of landlords, especially in the beginning, they feel bad for people. I feel bad for people when they fall behind on rent. But at the end of the day, I think you have to have the mindset of a landlord of this is a business and you're in it as a business and you need to treat it like a business. And it's unfortunate when people fall into hard times, but you can't take that burden on yourself because what happens is then you can't pay your mortgage on the property and you fall behind and then your credit goes bad and it puts you sometimes you can't even afford an attorney to do an eviction for you. So it's really in your best interest to get on top of it immediately and to start filing the paperwork right away.
Yeah, if I'm correct, when I was looking at it, you also have it's like a CRM where they'll auto generate the documents for you. So you put in your tenant's
Yes.
information, and then you just jump in there and say, "Oh, I need this to send out. I need this sent out," and it makes it really simple for someone to self manage.
Yeah, whether you have one or two properties or 100 properties, we make it really easy to autofill. We call it autofill or just like you said, it's like a CRM system where it will say first name, last name, it will put that in for you. Tenant's address, it will put that in for you. So in other words, you could have one document and have the system create 5, 10, 15 versions of it for different people all in one process, in one shot. So it really makes it efficient as you build up more and more rentals that you'll be able to grow exponentially over time. And again, it makes it easier and easier as you get more rentals. The process just comes easier. You have more contractors, you have your forms in place, you set up, all your procedures and systems to have tenants move in and have tenants move out. And it's great to get those rent checks coming in, month and month again. It's a great business to be in.
So with all your clients that you work with, have you been hearing anything, with the economy? Have they been reaching back out to you and asking or telling you, "Hey, this is what I'm running into now, and other people should be aware of it"? And if so, would you like to share some of that?
Yeah, well, it's really different in different states and different
Hmm.
counties all over the country. I live in Florida now, and the real estate is still pretty strong. But I was just in Vegas not that long ago, Las Vegas, and their housing is coming down in pricing and is really opening up, but much less competitive. So it's varying a lot. Some people say we're headed towards a recession. Um, I'm not an expert in that department, but the rental business has still stayed strong, even in harder times. Uh, the rental business has always done well. So um, I think it's always worthwhile to get into owning rental properties and, real estate, if they, it may come down a little bit over time for certain periods, but over a long period of time, real estate, goes up substantially. Some people in the last 5 years have doubled, more than doubled
Wow.
their the value of their property. So it's quite amazing to see your net worth. Sometimes you put a small amount of money down. Maybe you put $20,000 down to buy a property, and then maybe it's a $300,000 or $400,000 house. It doubles in value in a couple of years, and you just made $400,000, and you only spent 20,000. It's that's some of the magic of real estate, being able to get loans for it and build up rentals without a lot of money in your own pocket is really unique and special.
Well, great. So if people want to get a hold of you and they want to check out what you can do for them, what is and I'll have it in the show notes as well, but why don't you just tell them the website again?
Yeah, easylandlordforums.com. And you can catch us on Instagram or Facebook. We're really kind of all over social media, so TikTok as well. And we have a great forum if you have any questions to ask. We also have great support staff that if you have any questions, either with our product or even outside of our product, you can answer them again through our forum or through our chat on our website. We'll be happy to, we love helping landlords be successful. So that's kind of, what we wake up and get excited to do every day. It's great.
Awesome. Kevin, hey, thanks for coming on and sharing with everyone some of your knowledge when it comes to putting together lease agreements and screening tenants. I'm sure for those people who, like I stated earlier, you're just getting started in real estate or maybe been doing it for a few years and you want to take it to the next level. You've been running into problems trying to find that perfect lease. You can be a solution for them. So I appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you, Clint.
All right. Take care.